Ever since last Saturday, when Devin Haney defeated Vasily Lomachenko, people have been wondering, will we finally get to see the highly anticipated fight between Gervonta Tank Davis and Devin Haney? And with Devin Haney being out of his contract with Top Rank and being a free agent again, that looked like a very good possibility. But with it being revealed that Devin Haney reached out to Eddie Hearn with the hopes of partnering up and making a fight with Regis Prograis at 140 pounds, that's looking more and more unlikely. It still could, it's not impossible, but as of now, all the signs from Devin Haney and his team are pointing towards him moving up to 140 pounds. Now, he could change his mind and decide to stay at 135 pounds for one more fight for the Gervonta Davis fight. So we still got to see what happens if they go through any negotiations, if anybody sends any contracts or reaches out. We got to see if they entertain the fight. But as of now, it's looking like Devin Haney's moving up. And we know that Gervonta Davis has made it clear that as of now, he's not interested in fighting any higher than 135 pounds. So naturally, you start to wonder, what's next for Gervonta Tank Davis? We know Devin's moving up to 140 with his sights set on Regis Prograis. The next best fight after that for Gervonta Davis will be Shakur Stevenson. But we know his promoter, Bob Arum, just came out recently saying that he's not interested in making any fights with Gervonta Davis, making any big fights for Gervonta Davis. He can make big fights for his guys in-house. With them recently signing George Kambosos, Shakur has talked about a fight with Jermaine Ortiz, who gave Lomachenko a very tough fight. And Lomachenko himself is still there at Top Rank for Shakur Stevenson to fight. So where does that leave Gervonta Davis? Who can we expect to see him in the ring with next? The first thing I will look at is the sanctioning bodies and their rankings. And with Gervonta Davis only being ranked in the WBA, since he's the regular champion at 135 pounds for the WBA, that's where you look first. Then the next thing you look at is what fighters are on his side of the street, meaning what fighters does he share a promotion with. And that is a very real thing. You know, people like to say fighters use that as an excuse, the side of the street thing. That's not an excuse. It's a reason why you don't see promoters making cross-promotional fights all the time and everybody just fighting each other. It's a reason for that. It's a reason why you only see cross-promotional fights on mega fights, on super fights like Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia. So looking at these things and looking at the top 10, we see there's only 3 options for Gervonta Tank Davis. The first one being Frank Martin, the second one being Isaac Pitbull Cruz, and the third one being Edwin De Los Santos. And off the rip, we can cross out that last one, Edwin De Los Santos. No disrespect to him, but for Gervonta Davis and his stature of his career right now, fighting somebody like Edwin De Los Santos really don't do much for him. You know, Edwin De Los Santos had a good win over Rayo, knocked Rayo out, I think, the 3rd round. But after that, we haven't seen him again in the ring yet, and I doubt they'll just throw him in there with Gervonta Davis. So realistically, there's only 2 potential options for Gervonta Davis for his next fight, that being Frank Martin and Isaac Pitbull Cruz. Now, out of those options, most boxing fans would say that the better fight is with Frank Martin. Even with Isaac Cruz being ranked higher than Frank Martin on most boxing publications like Ring Magazine, ESPN, and others, most people would still say that Frank Martin is the better fight, the tougher fight, just because styles make fights. But one thing you have to factor in here, which again, a lot of fans get mad at this type of stuff, but it is what it is, and it's just a fact of the business of boxing, is that the better option here for Gervonta Davis in his career, him being a pay-per-view fighter, the better option here for him is to do the rematch with Isaac Pitbull Cruz, off the fact that Isaac Cruz at the moment is a bigger draw than Frank Martin. Ever since his loss to Gervonta Davis, Isaac Cruz has turned into a superstar. Frank Martin is working his way there. He's getting his name out there more and more, but he's not there yet. And also, Isaac Cruz brings the Mexican fan base behind him. A lot of Mexican fans say he beat Gervonta Davis in that first fight. So those fans and more that missed that first fight are going to be tuned in to see if he can get the win in the second fight. So both fights make sense from a boxing standpoint. But when you factor in the business side, the fight to make here is the rematch with Isaac Pitbull Cruz. I think the fight with Frank Martin would be decent on the business end. You know, Tank has always said he wants to fight in Chicago. Frank Martin is from down the street from Chicago, from Detroit. So they could fight in Chicago, do a little Chicago versus Detroit type of thing. And I'm sure it would sell out. But how would it do pay-per-view wise? And on the other end, Pitbull He could fight Pitbull in Texas. They could do a stadium in Texas and sell out with the Mexican fan base down there, and with Tank being himself, that would be huge. And my guess is a rematch between Pitbull Cruz and Gervonta Davis would do around 400 to 500,000 pay-per-view buys. But we just gotta wait and see how this plays out. Maybe the Devin Haney fight gets done. Or maybe Tank and his team does something that we don't see coming. Maybe he does something like deciding that he will move up to 140 and moves up and challenges Sabril Matias for the IBF championship. Maybe he does that. I don't know. Maybe he decides that he's going to go down in weight and go back to 130 and fight O'Shaquie Foster for the WBC championship. I don't know. But outside of that, outside of those two options of Frank Martin and Pitbull Cruz, there really isn't much out there unless they pull something we don't see coming or unless Devin decides to stay at 135. But that's what I got for y'all. I'm out.